right away. Appreciate all of y'all coming out. We've put together this presentation between myself and Joe that are going to go through it. The one thing though we kind of want to preface it with is that these are things that we have learned through all of the mistakes that we've made in 4 years of being around the dam. So we just wanted to share this knowledge. It's not a direct guide of follow this to the letter. There's going to be some things that might not make sense for you or your rider. There are some things that are going to make a ton of sense for you and your rider. So just wanted to go through and shared what our experiences have been overall. And I wanted to ask before we started to get rolling, who here is signed up to ride the dam this year? Raise your hands. Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. And then who's here supporting? Sick. Yeah. Thanks for being here, y'all. And then whose first time is it riding the dam this year? Yeah. Hell yeah. That's where it's at. That's awesome. So if you want to go to the next slide, we've got a lovely, actually this is our agenda slide. Perfect. I already forgot my presentation. So we're going to go through an introduction between myself and this lovely human on the other side of the screen from me. We're going to go through different equipment pieces, both for supporting it and touching on equipment for riding it. Talk about logistics and supplies that are available on the route. One of the biggest pieces is we're going to talk about making a plan with your rider and how to talk and kind of the different things that we think are important to find out and have a plan for going into the event. We have some checkpoint examples as well. We'll talk more about that when we get to that piece. And then also some logistical rider distance splits and just some numbers that I've put together from previous years. We're going to go through a Q&A. We actually have two of the event directors, Trenton and Joel, here with us as well. So appreciate them being here. We'll have a Q&A session to go back and forth after the presentation. So we ask that if you hold all your questions to the end. And then we actually have a very special film screening of The Last Dam from Checkpoint Zero Films that was filmed in 2021. So we'll end with that. Cool? All right.
Hello, I'm Joseph Selchik, go by he, him. I've done the dam 3 times. Finished 2018. I got taken up by the heat in 2019. I supported a friend the next year, and then I came back and did it in 2021.
And then my name's Joe Kreitzer. I use he, him pronouns as well. I finished the dam in 2018. It was actually the second gravel event I ever signed up for, which was an interesting strategy. 2019, I also attempted it, and the heat just took me out, mile 200. And then since then, I've done 2 years of support. 2020, I supported a friend, and then in 2021, Bonesaw had 9 riders on the dam. I was supporting a friend, a Bonesaw rider during that, and then also helping coordinate the other support crews that were there as well. So, getting into equipment, I just want to talk about this photo real quick. So this is a photo of my bike from 2019. And this is something that I do before every big event or cycling event is if I'm very prepared and on it for my schedule, at least at the latest the night before, sometimes a couple days before, I'll go through and lay out everything in front of me. I'm a very visual person, so I need to be able to see everything that I've got and then visually know this is what I'm missing, or why am I bringing 17 water bottles? That's too many, and it's just my anxiety talking to me right now. So that's a piece that I like to talk about. Go ahead to the next slide.
This list is something I pack in all of my trips or any events I do. It just, again, I don't want to forget anything, but also I'm at a point now in my cycling career where if I have some extra and someone forgot or doesn't have, I can also lend, borrow. So this is my personal one. I'll just go through it. For me, it makes sense to start from the bottom up, so I don't have to jump around. So shoes, if you're lucky, if you have a backup pair too. I brought road shoes to my gravel SPD event, and that was awesome, but I had a backup. So I was able to ride. Booties, if applicable, socks, extra pair of socks, wool, in case you want to change. 1 year we had the water year, and I didn't want to ride in wet socks the whole time, so at that first checkpoint at like 60, I just switched out socks because I just felt more comfortable, because if you feel comfortable, you feel good, you're going to keep going. Jerseys, backup jerseys too. Sometimes if it's super hot or super sweaty, super muddy, super whatever, and you want to change it out of bibs, sometimes that could be the refreshing thing you need. If there's some people that can power through, but I don't know, I don't need, sometimes I like to switch out of it. A vest, something packable, a gilet, rain gear in case it happens because you can never control the weather, base layers, top and bottom in case before or after the event. See here, warmers, leg and arm warmers just in case, gloves, mouth buff, cycling glasses. Also, since we are starting in the dark, I like to also bring a pair of clear, just because I like to, if it's super dry in the beginning, wearing a buff and wearing glasses for me is needed because everything's just gonna be up in the air and you're kind of going and you're excited and you gotta be able to see. So the clear glasses was an awesome buy for me. Cycling cap. And then on here, this is the kind of the stuff that I bring on the bike with me. Helmet, rain cover, Garmin, heart monitor, phone. Phones are different now, but I do have a little cover for my phone because I'm nerdy like that. Lights, extra lights, a battery pack, cords. I found out that my Garmin works better with a 90-degree USB cord in, and I can also charge and ride. Depending on if you have a newer battery, great, but my stuff's a little older, so sometimes I have to charge it while riding. Water bottles, sometimes I'll switch them out. I got the water bottles. Camelback has the gravel bottles with a little cap on top. So if it gets muddy or junk gets in there, it's a little thing you used to put on, a little cover you can put over the tip. I used to use Ziploc bags, but it's so much easier. Patch kit, tubeless stuff, just a tube always just in case. Bike pump, CO2, the head for that, tire lever. I don't always trust computers. I grew up in the Terminator era, right? So I'm not gonna go down that crazy thing, but I always bring cue cards just in case it fails or power. You just never know. So I personally run both. So the cue card holder, a Ziploc bag will work too, a clip. Banjo Brothers has an awesome one that I've been using, also supporting local. Wallet, cash, I bring a $20 bill. In case anything happens, someone picks me up, I can give them a tip, get food. You can use it as a boot, just $20 bill, or just some cash with you, just to throw in the wallet. Chamois cream, yep, yeah. Some people like a Camelback, and then rain cover for that. This last one is, I call it my pee pack. Stands for the bathroom pack in case something happens digestively and you just have to go. I have a rubber glove, and inside there I put like 3 wipes and like a hand sanitizer just in case. Sometimes you have to go into the field and that's what it is, or go off to the side, just put your bike down, kind of go off to the side, but I bring that just in case. I've used a cornstalk my first year and that was unfun, so that's why I switched to that. Smoother. So, any questions about what I have my list? I mean, it can vary if you go mountain biking. You put in pads if you have those too, but roughly this is what I kind of work from.
I think one of the big things with this too is that you want to plan for every style of condition, weather event, what have you, at the beginning of your ride. You're going to start getting tired. You are not going to be thinking as clearly at mile 150 as you are 2 hours before the start of the event. So like the cords and the phone and Garmin, definitely dry fit everything to your bike a couple weeks before the event. I found out that my Garmin would only fit with a 90-degree cord at mile 160, the first year that I did the dam, and then it took me quite a bit to mentally figure out how I was going to charge my Garmin so I knew where I was going, and then also not lose it on the side of the road as well. The other piece that I'll say is that I'm a very sweaty person when I ride. So even regardless if it is the nicest day outside or it's not raining, I always carry my phone and my wallet in a Ziploc bag because I have waterlogged my phone from sweat before in the back of my jersey pocket. So that's always a huge thing. You want to take a look through what you have and say, what cannot get wet, what can't get destroyed, and you want to make sure you have a protection plan for those before you start the event. So your navigation, your phone, your wallet. I carry my health insurance card with me on bigger events, so I'll carry my ID, a debit card, and my health insurance card, and then $20 cash as well. Sweet. You can go to the next slide.
And then we're also going to share the
yeah, we're going to share this out, sorry. So yeah, I saw a couple of folks taking photos. We actually have a lovely QR code at the end of this that we can share out. And then our Bonesaw member, Paulav, is actually recording this entire thing, so we'll have a recording of this presentation that we'll share out with everybody after this. So should have mentioned that at the beginning. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep.
And then the stuff that we learned from the support. Just good to have ice just in case. You see water socks, if anyone heard of those. You can put them like nylons around your neck on those super hot days, which I think would have helped me in 2019, but I didn't have them, but now I know. Water, Gatorade, or some sort of salt drink. Food, and food is very specific for you, the rider, but also the support. It can change too, so take a list, have it. We'll get more into that kind of food stuff later. Coffee, just bring some coolers to put the stuff in. Personally, I like having coffee, so I just bring my jet boil. I bring it wherever I go. It's pretty awesome. A tarp for in case it rains, you never know. A table to put all the stuff on, so when you take out trash, when you try to re-up, when you have each checkpoint re-up bag for your rider, if that's the way you want to go. You can switch anything. If there's stuff, it's like I can't eat any more gels at checkpoint 2. Switch it out and put in like granola bars and other stuff, because that can always change too, at least for me. Bike stand, wipes, rags, gloves for working, and also if you need it for other stuff. Extension cords, speakers, some of this are just fun extra stuff. Oh, bike stands there twice. Headlamp for also support, because that first time you're going to be in the dark, and even in the evening. So just be prepared to have some lights. Just shirts, jackets, sandals, football. I brought a shower to because of my 2019 non-finish. We had a quick shower. I didn't use it, but it was there, and I felt awesome about it mentally. Changing tent, coolers, and then ice socks. So
yeah. We'll go a little bit into more of these too as we talk about making a plan, but I think the big thing is that, we included this list of something that we brought along to a lot of our dam experiences and what we were building on. The shower and the football is a good example of that. For supporting the dam, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. You're gonna get really nervous about wanting to be there and set up for your rider. You're gonna drive it's about an hour to an hour and a half drive in between every single checkpoint. So you're gonna blaze through that, you're gonna get there and set up, and then realize that you have about 2 to 3 hours now that you're just sitting in the middle of a cornfield, just waiting for your rider to show up. So anything that makes that day better for yourself. Food's really important there. We were talking about the headlamps or floor lights. I unfortunately couldn't find any good photos of it, but the first year that we supported the dam with vehicles, we figured out that rechargeable USB work lights from Menards are great. We set them on top of our vehicles, angled down, so that at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning when you're at checkpoint 1, you can see what's going on, you can see the bike, you just have a floodlight set up overall. So that's what we usually run. And then it seems really simple to say make sure to have water in your cars. I'll tell you, we included that because in 2018 when we showed up to the dam, we didn't have anything in our vehicles at all. We didn't have any water, we didn't have a food plan, we had 0 things. And even to this day, sometimes the water jug will be the last thing I throw in the van because it seems simple enough, but then I forget it in the heat of packing. So having a packing list, having a checklist to go through and make sure that you got it is a really good thing. Go ahead. Supplies on the route, and I apologize that this is a little bit hard to read. So again, as we've kind of mentioned, there's a couple pro tips in here. It's because we have been at a professional level of making mistakes for about 5 years now, and this is what we've learned from it. The biggest thing is plan to have all of your equipment, all of your supplies with you before you get to Gary. There is very limited resources in Gary. If you are arriving past 6 o'clock or so, there is no resources available in Gary, South Dakota. The closest drive is about 15 to 20 minutes away to a gas station or to a smaller grocery store, and those close down, I believe, at about 8 to 9 p.m. at night as well. So you want to make sure that your car is packed, ready to go, because you're going to have very limited time once the race starts to get over to checkpoint 1 and set up. And in that area of the state, there is no 24-hour access to supplies. The latest something's going to be open is maybe 9 p.m., and then they might reopen at 5 a.m. So you want to at least have everything that you need for checkpoint 1 until checkpoint 2 within your vehicle. Biggest pro tip there is that Granite Falls, Minnesota is probably one of the best resupply points before you get into the start. There is, I think, 2 grocery stores there. There's a big Casey's there. There's a BP. It's on the drive to go out to Gary from the cities. So Granite Falls is an awesome option. That is my last stop. The other piece with just talking about checkpoint supplies is make sure your vehicles have a full gas tank before you get in. There is not an option to really get gas anywhere in Gary, South Dakota. So I fill up my tank in Granite Falls to make sure that I can get halfway through the day and I'm not running to grab gas or anything that way. Yep, only 4 a.m. The only exception to this supply run, I would say, is that there's a BP in Morton. However, it's on the route. So the biggest thing with having checkpoints that are available to your rider is that if that is your planned checkpoint, then definitely have the interaction with them. But if that is not a checkpoint of y'all's, then you cannot support your rider in that zone. You can wave to them while you're pumping gas in your vehicle or whatever else, but they cannot take any support from your vehicle if you're going to go to Morton to fill for your supply vehicle. Once you get to mile 150, you get into Henderson area, a little bit like central Minnesota, then you start hitting a lot more 24-hour, more supplies options, more restaurants and things like that. I put the Casey's logo on here because we have been trying to get sponsored by Casey's for a number of years. There is my favorite Casey's in, I think, I'm going to forget the name of the town now. It's on a later slide. But it's right near Checkpoint 2. Casey's Breakfast Pizza pretty much fuels Bonesaw riders for the entire part of the dam from mile 120 on. Yeah. The Casey's in that area know about the dam. They will be very aware as you walk in probably. In 2021, when I showed up at 4:30 in the morning to buy paper towels, 6 breakfast pizzas, water, Coca-Cola, first aid kit, I forgot everything else that I was buying. They kind of asked me what was going on. I was like, oh, we're doing a gravel event all the way across the state right now. And without hesitation, they yelled into the kitchen in the back. They were like, put all the breakfast pizzas on, that damn race is going on again, because they know. So with that as well, if Casey's Breakfast Pizza is your fueling plan, the pro tip is if you download the app, you can schedule a pickup order because there might be 5 other support crews that are in front of you in line. And it could be an hour wait to an hour and a half wait all of a sudden. So just make sure of that. And that goes for a lot of the resupply points along the route, is that there is over 500 riders signed up. The majority of them probably have a support crew. So if you think you have really easy access to a resource that's right on the route, your idea might also be the same idea, but a number of other folks. So expect longer wait times, plan that into your drive time. I'm going to the next one. Making a plan. This is probably the biggest piece about running support for your rider, and I'll let Joe talk through these points.
Yeah, so for me personally, I had an overarching goal of getting to the start line. I was like, yeah, that was my first, because there's so much to think about. When you asked me to do it our first year, like an idiot, I just jumped in the pool. I'm like, yeah, we'll see if we can swim. Yeah. But that was my first one, just make little goals to break it down mentally, because for me, that made sense. And then I got to the start line. Then I'm just gonna chill until we go, start riding with people like I normally have done in the past, and then make it to checkpoint 1. Then checkpoint 1, keep on going to checkpoint 2. For me, I try to simplify it because 240 miles to non-bikers is crazy. 240 miles to bikers is crazy. So across the board, it's just a crazy thing that and also supporting that. I think I was more tired supporting than I was riding. Because it's just, okay, I need to wait. But yeah, so having those goals or mini goals breaks it down. I've heard you talk about 460 mile rides, is my math right? Mm-hmm. Or then 8 30-mile rides and then keep on going down. You can do it that way too, but it's just more manageable mentally instead of taking on the whole thing. And then, knowing what you need over the course, that can always change. I found out that I could only eat so many gels, and my first time I bought, $150 worth of gels, but my stomach can't handle that much sugar. And so I was like, okay, well next year I'll have some gels, but I'm gonna wait a little longer till I get into them. I'm gonna want bananas, I'm gonna want Fig Newtons. I started eating Fig Newtons again. Those are great. Just solid food at some point, and then taking that with me. So my checkpoint 2 bag, I just swapped it out with other stuff because I couldn't eat that stuff anymore. And then food plan, and this is so specific to everyone. Without being a nutritionist, I would say definitely try out the stuff you're going to do on the ride so you can eliminate all that stuff. My first year, I tried some sort of milk drink, and that's why I had to formulate the poop pack, because my body can't handle that anymore. But like, so, obviously it makes sense, but in the go, I was like, oh yeah, an energy milk drink? This sounds fantastic. No, it wasn't for me. So, just knowing that your plan and kind of sticking to that and trying that stuff out ahead of time so you know it works is a good thing. I'm going to talk about the next part.
Sure. So yeah, talking with your rider about what they should have set out at each checkpoint. Regardless of whether they want to F1 pit stop this thing and they're in and out in 15 seconds, or they're planning on taking a nap, it's really good to know what their plan is and what they want to do. And that may change, but having that plan going into it and knowing what is laid out. In the previous photo that there was a while back, I had 3-gallon Ziploc bags that had it had a spare tube, it had all of my drink mixes and food and plan like that. It was labeled CP1, CP2, CP3. So knowing of like, okay, at checkpoint 1, this is my food bag. I want to make sure the water's set up. I want to make sure I have some tools or stuff to go through. Lubing the chain on the bike and checking tire pressure at every single checkpoint is a really good idea, just to make sure those are good to go. But having a plan with them of knowing what do they want at each one. Do they want, no solid food in the beginning, and then they want to eat a meal at checkpoint 2, and they want to eat another meal at checkpoint 3? Are they thinking they're going to take a nap? I supported a year that there was a rider that came in and slept for 45 minutes on the nose at every single checkpoint. That was part of their training plan, and we set timers and woke them up. Personally, one of the years I did it, I was trying to do a faster time and knew that I'd spent too much time at checkpoints the previous year. And so I told my support person to start a timer the minute that I showed up, and that I wanted to be 15 minutes in and out. Just like made sure that I've got everything, but once that 15-minute alarm went off, it was, all right, stop talking, let's figure the rest of the stuff out and go. So really talking with them, and that, again, it can change. We'll talk more about being adaptable, but knowing what the plan is in advance is huge. You are responsible for the rider. So you are responsible for this person. Your number one goal as a support person should hopefully be that your rider has the best experience possible that they can have while riding it, and hopefully meet their goal. The ultimate goal is to finish, have a good time. They might have a time goal or something that way, but you as a support person are the number one resource and tool that person has in order to meet their goals. So it sounds really heavy, it kind of is, but I think it's really good to realize that, and you are emotionally responsible for them, you are physically responsible for them. The food thing is really important to check of if they carry a lot of food with them and you have specific checkpoint bags. One of the things that I like to do is have them just empty their pockets at every single checkpoint and watch how many wrappers are empty versus full. Ran into it before where I had a rider come into mile 150 and said, empty your pockets, and they had eaten nothing in the last 60 miles. And that is a huge problem for those of y'all that have done gravel riding before, is that for the rider, they want to try to stay calorie positive. You're just trying to stay as much above that line as possible, and the minute you go calorie deficient, you're going to be fighting the bong pretty much for the rest of the ride. You're going to be fighting that, and your body will start shutting down. So even if it's impossible for them to eat, or they're saying they don't want to eat, they gotta eat. I've gotten in arguments with some of our riders before at checkpoint 3 at mile 180, where I told them that if they absolutely felt like they couldn't eat, then they needed to eat and throw it up in my shoes, but they weren't going to leave the checkpoint until I watched them eat food. And sometimes that is where people get to in the mental space, is that you got to have hard conversations. Get ready to get in an argument with them. Get ready for people to be crying, for people to be emotional. Be ready to possibly have to yell or really set the line straight, because for a lot of folks, after they get to like mile 150 or past that, they're pretty mentally checked out. And they're going to come in, and you just got to tell them each step what they need to do, and then be able to support them through it. Yeah. Have a plan, have a backup plan, and then be prepared to make a new plan. We talked about the first year that we've done the dam where we didn't even have water in the car. The only reason that Josie and I finished that event was because of Rob, Zane, and Tom, who are our support crew that year, that literally figured out how to support a 240-mile gravel race while we were doing a 240-mile gravel race. So they went and figured out how to buy water. They were on the phone with friends and family members of ours, figuring out our favorite food items so they could go by Subway and McDonald's so we could eat food at checkpoint 3. When I say that we didn't have any plan whatsoever, we had zero plan coming into 2018. And it was because of our folks being able to figure it out on the fly overall. So all of this having conversations and everything you're gonna have with your rider before the start of the event is great. Be ready to completely blow it all up and make a new plan in the middle of the day because things can change so quickly. We talk about food a lot. That rider, even if they've been training and know that the food tastes really good, it might not taste good anymore at mile 200. And you might have to figure out some new snacks or something that way to get to them. So just being super adaptable that way. You can go to the next one, Steph. Steph, you can go to the next one. You want to take the first?
Yeah. So yeah, it's as support. And riding, it's hard, and being attentive. It's almost like a NASCAR race, and you're the pit crew. You come in, you do your stuff, they're gone, and you're like, all right, let's go to the next one. Let's do it again, and let's do it again, and then let's do it again at the end. So just being ready for that, and it's taxing too. Driving from checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3, from checkpoint, from 3 to the finish. I was almost falling asleep at the wheel when I was supporting. It was bad. So don't do that. So drink coffee. But yeah. But when it comes to emotional support during the event, get to know your rider, talk to them, know when to push, when to hold back. If there's a line, because safety is the number one thing for you, for your rider, for everyone else. Like, know when that line is. It's like if you're in a lot of pain, it's not about ego. It's like if you feel like you really have to call it, then that's what it is too, right? But understanding that with you and your rider, what that and when that point comes, right? So yeah, all these are kind of what we talked about. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the big thing, like we added on here, of what should you do if your rider wants to quit? This is a really important question that I like every single rider that I support and our folks around us. Have your support person have that conversation with the rider. When they tell you, because you're all going to want to quit. Anyone that's riding the dam, you're going to want to quit at least once, probably multiple times. For me, it was thousands, both times that I rode it.
Oh yeah. Why are we doing this? Why am I biking?
Exactly. Why did I pay to be here? So what should your support person say to you or ask you when you tell them inevitably that you want to quit? Some of the answers that we've gotten before is one of our riders said, if I tell you that I want to quit, you need to ask me if I'm proud of the ride that I put in today. And if I'm not proud of it, then you need to tell me to keep going. I've also talked with other riders that knew that their mental strength was not as good as their physical strength. And they said, if I tell you I want to quit, you just need to keep pushing me, but watch to make sure that I'm not physically hurting myself at that point. It's across the board on that. And that question's really hard. But that's part of that emotional support because, like I said, inevitably, every person that's going to ride the dam probably is going to want to quit at least once during the entire ride. What should you do if your rider is upset? Emotions come to the forefront. It is very normal to see huge emotions and big swings in emotions in riders throughout the time. But everyone reacts differently to that. Some people might want to be comforted. Some people might want their own time. Again, we've had riders before that said, I might be just absolutely crying and breaking down coming into a checkpoint, and I just need my own time away from folks. I don't need to be approached. I just need to work through that on my own. And I've also talked to folks that said, I just need to talk to people. I want to make sure that I'm mentally sound. We'll go through, especially as we get towards the end of the ride, we do like, what's your name? What year is it? Especially if they seem super out of it, you start walking through different questions like that. I recently volunteered at Arrowhead 135 this past year. I was at mile 100 for that race. It was some of the most brutal conditions we heard from the riders out there. And we had a couple riders that came in during Arrowhead and we kind of asked them what they needed. And they said, I just need to have a conversation with another person because I've been alone for 6 hours and I'm in a pretty bad mental spot. So that's what support can look like sometimes for people. And then we already talked about it again, but I'm just going to reiterate it. Be prepared to tell them what they need to do. And be prepared to tell them what they need to do, not only for themselves, but what your plan was, and hold them to it. The food thing is huge, and it's hot. There's very little exposure from the sun. So making sure they're eating, making sure they're getting enough water, and then especially in that second half, again, just try to pay as much attention as you can to make sure that they're eating the food that you got for them and that they've been eating on the bike. Usually you can tell by the amount of empty wrappers that they've got coming out of their pockets and stuff like that. Go ahead, Sam. Checkpoint examples. So has everyone looked through the rules on the dam website yet? If you haven't, that'll be included in the links that we send out. Highly recommend to go through and look through the rules on the dam website. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but this year it's a very similar setup to previous years where if your rider is receiving support, you can have 3 checkpoints set up. Those checkpoints can be at any mileage whatsoever, but your rider can take 3 support locations from your team, and that's it before the finish line. Now, this is really unique to a lot of other races. You know, you might do some other races and there are designated checkpoints, so whether you want support or not, at mile 50, that's your opportunity for support. What's unique for this, and because I want to preface this before we get into it, is if you are a rider or your rider that you're supporting knows that they can ride 150 miles without having a checkpoint, then have your first checkpoint at mile 150. And then you can stack up 3 checkpoints from 150 to the end to mile 240. So we typically put together a very traditional split of every 60 or so miles, we have a checkpoint for folks to help break it up mentally. But again, it's really unique to your rider that you're supporting and what they know they want to do. I had a number of friends in 2021 that their first checkpoints were at mile 120, 150, 160, because they knew that about themselves, that they could ride that far and not have to have a checkpoint, and then they stacked their other ones all the way in between. So again, these are all links, and we'll send this out, but these are the checkpoints that Bonesaw historically runs. We're still figuring out our plan for this year, but most likely we'll kind of be in this general area, so feel free to come hang out. It's a good time. But we do mile 61.9, mile 124, and mile 183. I included some of the splits and drive time here. So this is, again, kind of what we put together when we're looking at a support plan overall is know the drive time in between. Know that from the start to checkpoint 1 that you have 0 supply options. From checkpoint 2, right around checkpoint 2 into checkpoint 3, you have a bunch of different, Fairfax is where that Casey's was, sorry. You have a bunch of different supply options there. What's great about the western side of the state is that it's big farm country, obviously. A lot of those supply options open at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, depending on as well. And then as you get into checkpoint 3 area, most likely this is going to be an afternoon, evening timeline for a lot of folks, so it really opens up there more. Biggest thing about figuring out where you're going to run checkpoints for your rider is do not drive on the course whatsoever. So it's the riders will be receiving the course file, or it's out there. So the riders will be receiving the course file. So I'll run 2 tabs on my computer and use Google Maps and have the course file open to look at it and say, okay, we're going to go to checkpoint 2, but this is the route that we're going to go. Like I noted in, I might have taken that up. Oh no, sorry, down near checkpoint 3, if you see the second from the bottom one, this is an example I sent out previous years, but most people just plug addresses into their phones nowadays. So that's what I always do for other support drivers, and noted, hey, when you put this map link into your phone, you have to take the northern route. Because in this example, if we took the southern route, we're going to drive 6 miles on the course. So you want to be able to look around and make sure not driving on the course whatsoever, so that you're not endangering other riders. The other big thing that I hyper worry about all the time is that you're not kicking up a huge dust cloud. Everyone's already dealing with that. The riders are going to deal with that from a bunch of other traffic. So it's not only a safety concern, but it's also just a comfort concern for the riders too, is that they've already been choking on gravel dust all day. You don't really want to add more to it. So yeah, like I said, we'll include this out. Looking around for different amenities there and the drive times. As I noted too, it's an hour and 8-minute drive, an hour and 9-minute drive from the first one. So that's kind of your average drive time as you drive across the state. As a support person, make sure that you have food for yourself. Make sure that you are also, if you're a person that can take a nap and wake up to a cell phone alarm, do that. I've ridden it twice and I've supported it twice, and I think that supporting the dam is harder than riding it. It is a grueling day. You are driving across the entire state in a hot vehicle. And again, it's hurry up and wait. You've got an hour drive time, you might be stopping to get supplies, and then you want to get there and be set up so that you don't miss your rider, and then you just hang out in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, until your rider shows up. So make sure that you're taking care of yourselves too. Finish line notes. So the finish line is at Harbor Bar in Hager City. Just some unique pieces about it. So the finish line itself and the setup is in a grass field that you'll see as you're kind of driving into the Harbor Bar area. Parking is typically a little bit crazy. Again, depends on what time your rider is finishing, depends on what time you're getting there, but just be prepared for crazy parking. Be prepared that you will not have your vehicle directly next to you. So if you have a finish line bag for your rider, hopefully a change of clothes, maybe some food, electrolytes, things like that, bring that with you because you're probably going to be at least a couple minutes walk from your vehicle overall. For the support folks that are going to be hanging out there, long pants are a good option. It's right next to the Mississippi, kind of in a swampy piece of land. It's typically pretty buggy. Hopefully it's a little breezy so the bugs aren't that bad, but make sure that you have some bug spray with you too. It is an hour drive back to Minneapolis. So again, talking about making that plan, are y'all staying in Red Wing that night or are you driving back to Minneapolis after? If you're driving back to Minneapolis after, make sure that you can safely drive back to Minneapolis after, that you've been awake now for possibly 36 hours, driving across the entire state, and it could be midnight or 12:30 in the morning that you're leaving Hager City and now you're gonna drive back. So that's the big piece there. Talking more about food for yourselves as well for support folks, or if your rider knows that they want food at the finish line when they're coming in. The Harbor Bar has great food. It's an amazing food menu. Be prepared that it could be a long wait. It could be a long wait for pickup food. If you're running it close and you know that your rider is going to come in, or you don't want to leave the finish line because you're not sure when they're going to finish, then possibly stop on your way in through Red Wing, pick up food there, and then have it with you as well. We personally, with Bonesaw riders, we don't run a lot of tracking on our riders. It's hard to during the dam because there's a lot of areas that don't have cell phone service, so we don't have spot trackers or things like that. So any tracking app or stuff we use relies on having a cell phone signal. So sometimes that's hard to know. So again, we do a lot of like time splits, calculating average ride time for the riders to get an idea of when we expect them to arrive. But that is barring that they don't have a flat tire, that they don't slow way down, that they don't speed way up. So being really present at the checkpoints is good. So as you're coming in, you're gonna know that, okay, it's a 60-mile run. If they're running at 15 miles an hour, that you're gonna have 3.75 hour time before they show up. But just have everything ready for them so that you are there at the checkpoints ready to go and at the finish line ready to go too. Go ahead. Wanted to include this out. This is kind of rider focused a little bit. And again, this is all in the presentation, it'll go out, but we like to do these splits because 240 miles is a lot. That's a really big number, especially in your head. So breaking it down makes it a little bit easier. So the biggest stretch that you'll ever ride straight without any option for support is the first leg. It's 62 miles. And then after that, there's a 24-hour gas station in Morton that is 16.6 miles from the first checkpoint. Then if you're running, and this is based off of the checkpoints that we showed earlier that Bonesaw runs. So for our riders, then you have a 38-mile ride. Henderson, Minnesota is one of the best oases probably on the entire dam. There is an ice cream shop in town. Hopefully it's still there. I hope that I'm not a liar. I actually didn't double check before this. And then a BP gas station that has hot food and bathrooms and chest freezers and all that fun stuff too. 27 miles in.
And also a hose. In the past, there's been a hose to use.
Yeah.
So if you want to wash yourself down on your bike or get water, that has been fantastic on super hot days.
Yeah. Depending on the pace that your rider is going, or that if you're riding the dam that you're going, Henderson, there's a lot of people. You might have spent a little bit of time riding alone before Henderson, but it's almost guaranteed that you'll bump into riders at the BP, at the ice cream shop. There's a city park that's got covered pavilions that provide some shade with outlets there that do have electricity as well. So you'll bump into folks there. After Henderson, I've personally never stopped at Brewster's. I don't think you
I haven't
have.
either. No.
There's Brewster's Bar and Grill. It's a block off course. You can see it from the course as well. That is 26 miles from Henderson. And then checkpoint 3 that we run for our riders is again about 31.5 miles from Henderson, and it's 5 miles from Brewster's Bar. The year that I did not finish, I actually had some sunstroking issues, but I unfortunately had to call my race about 2 miles from the Dairy Queen that was in Cannon Falls, which was the most frustrating part of having to DNF that year. But there is a Dairy Queen that's in Cannon Falls. Say that again? That one's gone? All right, disregard. Forget everything that I just said. 4 blocks off. All right.
You got to go a little further. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I couldn't convince him to stay open.
Appreciate it. Maybe we'll do like a pop-up or something that way. Yeah. And then finish line notes. You got 58.9 miles from where we run checkpoint 3, or 27.5 miles from the McDonald's that's in Cannon Falls overall. If you haven't looked at previous course files or talked to riders yet, just a note for support and riders that are here, the biggest climbs and some of the most challenging topography of the dam course are in the last 60 to 100 miles. It is pretty tough, pretty much just as you're getting into Henderson, which is Minnesota River Valley area, and then on from Henderson, you hit those big climbs. So that is really, the mileage splits get really important right there. Having water, having ice socks. It's the last 60 miles of the event are some of the most challenging, not only because you've already ridden 180 miles, but also just of the terrain and topography that you're riding coming into. You're hitting that driftless area part of the state right then. So go ahead. Lovely. So real quick before we do Q&A, we'll have Trenton and Joel join us up here as well for Q&A. The QR code that's up here, if y'all would like a copy of this presentation, again, we're also recording this right now too, so if you want a copy of the video and the presentation, the QR code just leads you to a form to put your email in. Please put your email in, and we'll get that out probably later this week or so overall. And then open to any questions whatsoever. Again, we've got 2 of the event directors here with us. We'll answer any and all of your questions, whether it's about support, riding, our experiences, to the best of our ability. So feel free to raise your hands if you got any questions, and we'll get going. Oh.